What do you mean you don't have audio?
It's okay. Okay, we're good. Sorry.
So what did you do?
I don't know.
So where is Dave? Oh, Dave's at the back. Is he gonna run the camera from back there? Okay. So he can focus in on people that
Yes,
are even up here.
yes. No. If they're up here.
I just hate for them. They'll have to go all the way around the pen and crawl up here. If they'll just stand down front with my microphone. It'll be fine. good enough for me, if it's good enough for you. Wow. It is wonderful for you all to have turned out today to join us in giving thanks for our friend Sasha Baker. It is awfully hard to believe that it has been almost 4 years since she died. We miss her now just as much as we did so long ago. I'm going to be pushing buttons here while I'm talking, so just forgive me for that. There's still some folks who are joining us. I recognize that a number of you have come from very long distance away, and we do want to acknowledge that and just the sacrifice that that involves. And thank you so much for making that effort. Others of you from right here have sacrificed part of your busy day to be here to support Doug and Paige and Seth and all of the family, and to just give thanks to God, to the God who gives us friends like Sasha. And that never has a time limit on it. We should be thankful for that for as long as we are drawing breath on this planet. So, welcome to Winchester, friends. We don't do a lot of this stuff, so if we get some things wrong, just show us some grace. We'll get through this, we promise.
Welcome to Zoom people.
Yeah, and especially welcome to all you who have joined us by Zoom from all over the place. It is remarkable the spread of this gathering. So thank you all, and we'll do the best that we can to make sure that the Zoom folks can hear and comprehend and enjoy what's going on here. You are recording already? We need to warn you, we're going to invite you to speak. That's really most of what we're going to be doing, and both you on Zoom and you here in the room. So please know that this is being recorded, and this will be preserved for posterity. We wanted to record this for Doug and Paige's and Seth's benefit, to be able to look at it moving forward and to remember. And remember just how many people love you guys and care about you. So that will be a good thing going forward. I would like to begin by reading a passage of scripture that was suggested to me, and I think it was probably Doug that made the suggestion, and it came out of a discussion of the hymn that we're going to sing just as soon as I finish reading the scripture. This is written by the prophet Jeremiah. He was one of the last major prophets of Israel before they were hauled off into captivity in Babylon, or Judah, and prophets of Judah. And Jeremiah had to witness the downfall of Jerusalem. And he wrote these words in the book of Lamentation after witnessing the demise of what he had known as the kingdom of God. And it was a pretty hard thing for him to bear. So hear these words in that context, and then we will make some comparisons after you've heard these words. This is from the 3rd chapter of the book of Lamentations. I'll start reading with the 19th verse. Again, remember, Jeremiah is writing this after witnessing one of the hardest things in his life that he'd ever witnessed. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I remember them well, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Doug reminded me over there just a few minutes ago that the reason that he had suggested that we sing this together was that on the day that turned out to be the last medical appointment that Sasha had before her death, after they had gotten pretty discouraging news and not a lot of hope, Sasha's words were, "We have to keep the faith. We just must keep the faith." That was who Sasha was. That was her life. That was her wisdom. So I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, there are hymnals in front of you. I'm sorry we can't supply these to all the folks on Zoom, but this is hymn number 43 in our hymnal. I'm going to ask if you would sing number 43 with me. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Thank you very much. I just would add that not only does that memory from Sasha make that an especially meaningful song, I read through all of Lamentations 3 several times this week and was just struck by how closely that fits. You know, Doug's the only one of this bunch that we've really had close contact with for these last 4 years. But those things have been true. There is great truth in the fact that this has been one of the really hardest things ever in life to deal with. But it has also been true that God has been present and ready to help at all times. And that song celebrates that in the midst of the worst things life can throw at us, God's faithfulness will come through. So thank you, Doug, for letting us sing that together. That was That was a true gift. I'm going to ask if you would join me in prayer as we begin. We thank you, Father, for the chance to be together today. We are mindful of Jeremiah's words that it is good to sit together in quietness and simply experience your love and your help. And we ask for that to be true of this gathering on this day in this place for these people. We have come together to give you thanks for the life and work and influence of Sasha Baker, to give you thanks for being a God who gives us friends like her. We thank you for your help to her in those last difficult days of her life here on earth. We thank you for the gift of her faith. We thank you for the assurance that you give us that she is with you, and in a very real sense, she is still with us. Thank you for her family. Thank you for Doug and his life and his work for you. Let this day be a blessing and a comfort and a help to him. Let us all be present with that purpose in mind, to simply allow your Spirit to flow through us to all who still mourn the death of Sasha Baker now so long ago. We thank you that we've had an opportunity finally to gather and do this. We ask that your presence would be notable here, that we would be obedient to your Spirit, and that this will be an encouraging experience for all who have gathered. Once again, Lord, we thank you that you are with us. We thank you for your comfort. We thank you for your gifts and for the gift that Sasha was to all of us. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I am going to read an obituary that I reworked just a little bit for readability, but the family has put this together, not me. This will just be a framework of Sasha's life. I didn't know her until we moved here, and they came home once in a while from Hong Kong, but only for, I guess, maybe 6 or 7 or 8, maybe 8 years after you guys retired, we were able to be around more. So I don't know very much, and it's going to depend on you all who knew her for all of her life to fill in the blanks and to tell the stories that we've never heard. So you can be preparing, and we'll have a mobile microphone, and we will come to you and let you share your gratitude for Sasha's life. Sasha Ann Fiddler was born on February 23, 1947, to Jean and Annie Fiddler. Her maiden name was Causer. Is that how you pronounce that? Annie Causer Fiddler. Born at Winchester, Indiana. She grew up on their family farm right outside of town here. Sasha was an active person all her life. She was even known at Driver High School as the tumbling cheerleader. I wonder if she had a badge that said that. Sasha majored in physical education at Ball State University and competed in collegiate gymnastics on Ball State's first women's gymnastics team. After graduating from Ball State, she taught physical education at Frankfort, Indiana, and started a girls' gymnastics program there. In 1970, she married Doug Baker, who also is from Winchester. They lived for 2 years in California, where Sasha continued working as a teacher. They then moved to Florida from California in 1972. Sasha found work there coaching gymnastics at private gyms. And while there, she also took advantage of their proximity to the ocean to start running on the beach. She ended up competing in distance races and placed among the top finishers in many of the races she entered. The Baker family moved in 1986 to Hong Kong, where Sasha taught physical education, swimming, and ropes courses for the international school there. She enjoyed adventure travel. She was able to hike numerous times in the Himalayas, both of Nepal and Sikkim. I don't even know where that is. How do you say that? Sikkim?
Right between Bhutan and Nepal, just right above India.
We're going to take Doug's word for it, okay? I will never be able to find it on my own. Thank you. So she taught, or she hiked rather, in those places. She trekked among the hill tribes of northern Thailand. She built Habitat for Humanity houses in the Philippines. She rode camels in Rajasthan. She explored the rice paddies and caves of Sulawesi, Indonesia. In Borneo, she spent time with the, Dayak people, the headhunters in Sarawak. She climbed Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia, which is the highest mountain in Southeast Asia. Sasha also loved working with horses, and she led student horseback trekking trips in the snowy mountains of Southeast Australia. With her family, she backpacked in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and she explored the nature trails of Hong Kong. Sasha was a source of strength and resiliency for her family. She enjoyed gathering friends and family members to share her delicious cooking and to hear everyone's stories of their latest travels. Sasha and Doug retired after living and teaching in Hong Kong for a total of 27 years. They moved back to Indiana and resettled in the farmhouse northwest of Winchester, where Sasha was born and raised. Sasha Baker died at home at age 73 on June 14, 2020, after a recurrence of cancer that she had experienced a few years earlier. She was preceded in death by her parents, Jean and Annie Fiddler. She is survived by her husband of over 49 years, Doug Baker of Winchester, by her son Seth Baker of the Dalles, Oregon, her daughter Paige Baker Detour, is that it? Detour, and her granddaughters Michaela and Savannah, all of Port Washington, New York, and by her brothers Steve and his wife Sylvia Fiddler in Lander, Wyoming, and her brother Bruce Fiddler of Geneva, Indiana. She is also survived by her Quaker faith community in Winchester and by many, many friends from around the world who have deeply missed her friendship over these past 4 years. The little tiny bit of personal stuff that I would add to this formal obituary is simply that Pam and I always appreciated Sasha's thoughtful quietness. She didn't say a lot, but when she spoke, you know that she had reasoned it through really well, and it made a lot of sense, and she was firm in what she told you. She was not iffy about what she knew and what she owned up to. And I always appreciated that about her. We were always impressed, especially in those last years and months, with her strength of character. Doug told us the other day that he did not hear one complaint from her during all of that time of illness. That is truly remarkable, but it's so very believable. She was just that quiet and just not a complainer. The thing that I told Doug that he didn't have on his list that I had put down on mine was I wrote down the word teammate. Pam and I do most of our life together, and it was fun to watch Doug and Sasha do so much of their life together as well. I think it might come from this world travel thing. You really don't want to strike out on your own, but it's a lot easier if you've got a partner along. And I'm quite sure that that factored into their closeness as a husband and wife, and just as lifelong friends. She was truly a wonderful teammate for Doug and for their family and for our church fellowship. So for all of those reasons, I give thanks that we had an opportunity to count Sasha Baker as our friend. We're now going to give you time to tell us why that was such a blessing and privilege to you. I will be moving around with the microphone, and Pam will be here at the podium to help folks online. We'll have to be considerate of one another. There are a lot of folks, and there may be several that want to talk. So we'll just try to kind of switch back and forth and keep this moving. But if you have nothing to share, use this time to sit in quietness, as Jeremiah suggested, to simply give thanks to God for this remarkable life that we celebrate today. Thank you once again for being with us today.
Zoom people to unmute. Zoom.
Yeah, folks on Zoom, you can tell them. Folks on Zoom, you'll need to unmute. Just remember to check to make sure you're unmuted if you want to speak, and we'll try not to let you get run over or run over anyone as we go back and forth. Oh, sorry, we were going to give you guys the first shot. These are the honored guests, they get to speak first. If you want to stand right down, you can just use this one. Okay. Or we can sit right there. Paige, you want to start us off? No, exactly. It'll be easier if you don't have to climb.
Okay. I need my glasses. My arms aren't long enough anymore. So I want to thank all of you for coming, and all of you on Zoom for attending, especially given recent circumstances in this wonderful town. Oh, sorry. Yeah, circumstances in this wonderful town. As Ron has touched on, Sasha was known by many names. There's your daughter, Quaker, tumbling cheerleader, horseman, teammate. She was a lifeguard. She was a coach, teacher, kitchen whiz, an adventurer, a runner, and my favorite, mom. It was a good thing that she grew up on the farm, kind of a tomboy style, tough tumble, because her sense of adventure was passed on to me, and a portion of her skills and talent. Not nearly enough. She was ambidextrous, I'm not, so I consider half of her skills and talent were passed on to me. But there were many times growing up that sense of adventure she passed on to me far exceeded my skill and talent. And inevitably, I would wind up coming home banged up, and she would say, "What did you do now?" And she would patch me up, and she would say, "Well, if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, these things happen." And yeah, so, and then being raised in the Quaker church and faith, and with Jean and Annie Fiddler, she really learned and instilled patience and faith with us. And she raised us that some things were going to come easily to us, but they wouldn't to other people. And make sure to encourage and help and teach the other people so that you'll receive that when you come up on something that you're struggling with. Mom had a special ability to take under her wing the kids that struggled, or anyone that struggled or seemed to be left out, to make sure to include them and to encourage them and to help them find their strengths and tell them, as long as you do your best, that's all that's required. As he mentioned, she did swimming, and in her years in Hong Kong, she probably taught enough kids to swim that you could fill multiple Olympic teams. And a lot of them that were deathly afraid of water, by the time she got done with them, they were the first in the pool and the last out. And then something that hasn't been mentioned here is her sense of humor. She had a wonderful sense of humor, and she knew what funny was. And I remember one time that I'd come home from rugby practice and walked in the house to the wonderful smells of dinner that Mom was preparing, which of course made a teenage boy that much more hungry than they knew they were when they walked through the door. And so, Mom, I'm starving, what's to eat? And she said, dinner will be ready, in 25 minutes, Dad will be home, go get showered up and get ready. So I went in and I showered up, and I came out in even more wonderful smells. Mom, how much longer? I'm starving. And I walked into the kitchen and she goes, here, hands me a carrot, Eat this while you're waiting. And I walked back out, and Paige was already showered for the evening, and 9.5 years apart, she gave me a little hard time. Oh, I'm so hungry. I came back from rugby. And so I kind of mock charged her, and she darted away from me and hid behind the standing oscillating fan that was running. And it was just perfect timing, and I took the carrot and I went, and she was covered with carrot. Mom! And she goes running into the kitchen, and Mom comes out and goes, did you spit carrot on your sister? And I'm just eating the carrot. No, I would never do that. And Paige is pointing at the fan and trying to remain upset, but laughing. And he put it in the fan. And Mom's response was, clean it up. And she went back into the kitchen. And over the sound of the sizzling wok and everything, you could hear her laughing in the kitchen. So that's a side of her that maybe a lot of people didn't see, but it was definitely there. And I feel very fortunate because raising me, she needed a sense of humor. So, bless you all for being here. Thank you.
Yes.
Not that I
Yep.
The camera on the laptop will get.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. We appreciate the time you're taking out to join us. I'm Paige, the little kid who was harassing my brother while he was eating a carrot. So we heard a lot about Mom's background, but again, like Seth, I knew her best as a mother, a role model who really led by example. She taught by doing. She showed us how to do things just by going about it. Some of my earliest memories were following her around at the gym while she taught and trained, picking up shells on the beaches of Florida, learning to swim, like Seth mentioned, watching the shuttle launches from Cape Canaveral when we lived in Florida. That was one of our favorite things to do, out the side over the river. Playing on the beach. We grew up beaches, Florida, Bali, all around the world. So really fond memories of that. But day in and day out, she showed us what it meant to show kindness and curiosity for life, be a loving partner to Dad and a mother to me and Seth. She exuded a natural strength and confidence and compassion in everything she did. When we were young, she took a massive leap of faith with Dad, leaving her family and her friends. And moving us thousands of miles away to Hong Kong, just to expand our horizons. So that was a time before long-distance phone calls and the internet, where she would take time out to write detailed letters home, to share with her family all the wonderful things we were doing over in Asia. And as a mother now, the idea of picking up my family and moving them around the world, disconnected from the friends and the place they grew up, seems extremely daunting. But she did it with poise and grace that I can only strive to emulate in my own life. She and Dad gave us the most precious opportunities to grow up abroad and it's one that shaped us into the people we are today. As we've mentioned, and as most know, she was a lifelong athlete at a time when even competing in sports was difficult for women, something she often reminded me of while I was growing up. So I was well appreciative of the opportunities that we had. And she was fearless when it came to heights, something that I did not get from her at all. Is it?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Technical pause? All right. She was always on the sidelines cheering for us, playing soccer and rugby, running track, or playing basketball. And when she wasn't spending her time watching our sports, we were hiking the trails of Hong Kong. Or with Dad, trekking through all of Asia on the interims and trips that they went on. Her adventurous spirit shone through on her trips, as did her resilience and her grit. Like all things, she taught by example, so being active and not giving up when the mountain got too high or the trek got too long. It was just one foot in front of the other until we got there. She was always there when you needed her, and sometimes when you didn't know you did. There was one time, or many times, but this one in particular, we were walking up a big hill, I think it might have been in Colorado, and she let me trek my way to the top, and I got to the top, took in the view, and then leaned to tie my shoe, facing downhill. In one swift movement, she hooked her finger through my belt loop and kept me from tumbling headfirst down the mountain. At the time, of course, I was probably about the age he shot the carrot at me. I was like, I got it. Just leave me alone, I'm fine. But now as a mother, I really appreciate the confident and quick decision-making she did to keep me from tumbling to my doom. Yes. So she just let us explore and be. And she knew when to slap a Band-Aid on us and send us and tell us to walk it off, or when an ice pack in the ER was necessary. And she did it without hesitation and with this just calm confidence that she carried about the way she interacted with the world. Speaking to what Seth mentioned, growing up, we only have our reference of our own home life, so coming home to a delicious home-cooked meal was something that we had the pleasure of doing most nights. She was a wonderful cook and explored the world beyond with all of the flavors of Asia. She loved bringing friends and family, like many of you, together for dinner parties, potlucks, any holiday meal. And she was terrible at sharing recipes. So when I grew up and I went off to college or living in an apartment alone, I'd ask her for a recipe. Hey, Dad, can you ask Mom how to make this or this? And she'd say, oh, just a pinch of this and a little bit of that. And yeah, Mom, but what are the quantities? What goes into, just a little bit more potato than carrots and like just a dash of this. So, no, that's okay. So I learned by doing, and she taught by showing. And it really was the goal of enjoying the cooking and the process and sharing it with friends. In addition to cooking, she enjoyed eating her way throughout the world and had an incredible palate. So throughout our travels, food focused as a central grounding force for everything we did and how we explored the world. But as Seth mentioned, there was nothing better than coming home to the smell of fresh rice cooking on the stove and something sizzling in the wok. She also taught us how to appreciate nature and find beauty in those small things, with time spent with each other, small crafts and gifts. She loved spending time with her grandchildren when she could. Living across the world made it difficult, so they would come back a couple times a year. She liked crafting little tissue ghosts at Halloween to decorate the house, or watching them trick or treat, collecting shells on the beaches like she used to do with me, flying kites, the same kites we had when Seth and I were kids, and of course, baking Grandma Scotty's, great Grandma Scotty's buttermilk cookies every Christmas, a tradition that my children now carry on and love, and many of you also love to eat. So she was one of the most thoughtful gift givers, taking time out, combing the markets of Stanley or Wan Chai or the shops wherever she traveled to pick out thoughtful gifts for someone's birthday, graduation, anniversary, tucking them away until the time was right. And she gave selflessly and with her whole heart. She demonstrated day in and day out what marriage and commitment looked like in her partnership with Dad, and their love manifested in the mundane, daily shared activities and tasks of running our household as much as it did in the grand adventures that they undertook around the world. The family they built together was the rock that grounded us and gave us strength and courage to grow into the people we are today. And I'm a better mother because of her. And she's taught me when times get tough, you just keep moving one foot in front of the other. And then you'll be where you need to be. So as we carry on, she will be with us every step of the way. And I hope that I can embrace adventure at the same grace and poise that she did, and share with friends and family along the way. And I see her every day in our compassion for each other, in my hands, my cheekbones, Seth's sense of humor, my dad's love for us, our love for nature, the delicious meals we continue to cook for each other, and the humor that buoys us all in difficult times. So thank you all for being here and humoring my public speaking, which is not up to Dad's standard. And really, I really, really appreciate it on behalf of all of us. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Bruce Euland.
Why don't you stop and make sure they can hear you?
Can people hear me? I'm not stepping on somebody's toes, I hope.
Yes, we can hear.
All right, great. So I do have a short story to share about Sasha that kind of feeds off of what Seth said about her as a swimming teacher. Pat and I were lucky enough to be friends of Sasha and Doug in their second stint when the kids were grown and gone in Hong Kong. But we spent a lot of great times together with guitar nights and meals at different adventurous places around Hong Kong that I probably never would have gone had it not been for them convincing me to go. But I do want to talk about swimming lessons because that was a place that I saw part of Sasha that Seth mentioned, which was her capacity to connect with kids or people in general who were scared or concerned about what was happening. And I taught 4-year-olds. So every spring, Sasha would come with the other PE staff and they would teach swimming lessons in the outdoor pool to kids. And some of the kids at my level had never been in a swimming pool before. They were pretty sheltered little characters. And Hong Kong, if you've never been there, it can be a little brisk in the morning and a little muggy at the same time. So that pool was not always the most pleasant place to start out. And if you're 40 pounds and you've never been in a pool before and you've lived a sheltered life and you have 0% body fat, it's not necessarily the best place to be. And Sasha had a special name for those kids that were having a hard time. She called them the corner creatures. And they were the kids that you would see hanging onto the gutter so hard it looked like the tile was going to crack. And their fingers were dead white, like a fish's belly, and their lips were blue. And she would somehow, she had this kind of magical quality. And at the risk of offending some of you who are members of the Friends group, I told her that she had Quaker Zen. And to me, what that meant was that somehow she was able to convince these kids that they were safe, that they were in good hands, and that they could trust her to bring her to a place they could never imagine themselves getting to. And that was special. Meant a lot to me, and I'm so grateful for her sharing that skill with the kids and giving me the chance to see it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi,
Go ahead.
this is Christy Dratz speaking, and I second everything that Bruce just said. She was a magical person. with the little ones. And that's one of the things that I was going to mention. She was a tiny person, but she had a ginormous heart. And it was that heart and that it was the mama heart that convinced a lot of those kids to let go of the side of the pool, and she'd carry them in her arms and let them play in the water until they finally made that decision for themselves. Both Sasha and Doug are some of the people who really stood out for us in Hong Kong through their exploring, their hiking. I don't think I could have ever kept up with Sasha, so I didn't go on their extreme hikes, but I went on the shorter hikes. As families in Hong Kong, we sort of stuck together, and quite often there would be 11 adults and 17 kids, and we all enjoyed those meals and restaurants all over, in all kinds of food. Which brings me to guitar night and food. I always look forward to guitar night and Sasha's salsa or her dips. It was amazing. It was something to look forward to. They're both very kind-hearted people. And I have to say, quite often I would be driving home and I would see them standing at the bus stop, waiting for the bus to go home. And I would stop, roll down the window, and offer a ride. And I have to say, they only took me up once because it was pouring rain. But the other times when I stopped and offered them a ride home, they refused because they were too stinky and they did not want to stink up my car. So that's how kind they are. And the other memory I have of Sasha that I must share, and it shows her kind heart, big heart. She and my mom had a connection, and my mom was in a wheelchair and not in great health. And we had friends visiting Hong Kong, mutual friends. And so we went to have dinner with them and celebrate one of their boys' birthdays. And I thought I had enough warmth for my mom. I brought her cardigan, but she was still freezing. And in comes Sasha, takes her pashmina off and puts it around my mom. And that is the one story that my mom told for years. And she referred to her as the kind lady. So that was Sasha. And I second Bruce's swimming stories. All true, all true. And it was her kindness and her patience that made those kids take the next step. So
I'll try to be brief. Her face would break into a smile when Sasha walked inside. There was a sweet connection made that nature couldn't hide. Popo and Sasha shared a language none of us could hear, sometimes just sitting side by side, enjoying a beer. Sasha hiked 10,000 miles and swam at least that far. For all who wander are not lost. She glimmers like a star. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's do what I'm told. It's obvious, you moved me out twice. Okay. Is this all right? I hadn't planned to speak, but I just want to confirm everything that's been said, and things that you all know about her. For those of us in our meeting, I think the vast majority of you didn't know all of the things about her because, I mean, we were retired when we moved back, so she was, just one more old person in this meeting. But oh my goodness, we had fun. I first met her. She was 12 or 13, and my Boy Scout troop was camping on the farm. And woke up one morning and the cattle were walking through our camp, right through. Not one had mooed for permission. And guiding them from behind, which is an interesting leadership skill, came this girl riding on a horse bareback. That is, the horse didn't have a saddle. Sasha was, she had a shirt on. And I saw that. She's driving these cattle along the fence line to another pasture. And I looked at that, and I remember to this day thinking, that is a cool girl, because I was 12 or 13 myself, and not all girls were cool, but I thought that's just really cool. And then Dad and Mom told me, well, it's Gene Fiddler's daughter probably, and they knew her from when my dad and Gene Fiddler and Bernard Shepard, Madonna's husband, and another guy named Jim Fitzmaurice played euchre, and they played together once a month on a Wednesday for 42 years. And they finally got the game right, I guess. But they said, no, that's Sasha. And she was Sasha in those days. And when they're out at the Fiddler's house playing, they give treats for her, to her, and then she brings them to the table. And their dad was gesturing like she was a little kid, but they knew her early on. And then the next time that I really remember seeing her was when she was cheerleading in high school. And I was too much of a klutz to make any sports team, so I was in the band. But I had a good seat to watch the cheerleaders. And because I played the clarinet, a small instrument you can see around it. And we did a high school musical, Annie Get Your Gun, and I was cast as Buffalo Bill. And guess who put my beard on and my makeup? Yeah, so I met her down there. So I got a close look at her for the rehearsals and 3 nights of performance. And then later we started dating. Actually, it was after the performance. We went to Doug DeWiggins' house. He's on the screen there somewhere. And they were hosting a cast party. And so I asked Sasha if she wanted to go with me. Yeah, she said yeah. So she's been plagued by theater her whole life with me. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. As Paige said, she went to Hong Kong. And I used to come home and jokingly, it was terribly funny. The kids loved this. They just fell on the floor laughing. I would come in, do a little dance and say, come to Hong Kong. Come. I'd never been to Hong Kong. People don't talk like that in Hong Kong. But, there was a depth to her that most people couldn't have known, and so I felt very lucky to be in that position. But her ability to put perspective on all events taught all of us a lot. And she would have told me over these last many 1,400 plus days that we have to live in gratitude. And I miss her terribly. Kids do. But I'm so grateful. We had so much fun. We had so much fun. Man, could she dance. We went in 2018 to Jim and Ellen's son's wedding. Jim and Ellen from Florida. And Kenny was there. Kenny, yeah, sitting beside me. And afterwards, I said, you know, they're going to dance on the upstairs. Shall we go up? She said, oh, I don't, you know, she'd been through, it was 2018. She had surgery in 2016. She had all of that stuff. She lost massive amounts of weight. And I said, we've got to dance at Brendan's wedding. And she said, yeah. And so we went up, and they were playing music that I didn't recognize, but I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And so we started dancing. I dance in a 1-foot square so that I don't hurt anybody. I'm in here. And but she was an excellent dancer. She was an excellent ice skater. She was an athlete. So she danced like an athlete. And she's dancing. We're dancing. I'm watching the dancers, but I'm moving and keeping time. And she grabbed my hand, did a little spin around. She did the spinning, and, you know, I was like that. And she saw one of the young people at the wedding. This girl happened to turn around at the same time and looked at Sasha and said, "Will you go, girl?" And that was the kind of attitude that she had. She was there to have a good time. She was going to dance at that wedding. And as Paige and Seth have said, I'm very, very grateful for all of you being here and being a part of our lives. And I was going to plan something, but there was too much to talk about. We knew each other 54 years, and we were married 49 and a half. And there's too many stories to try to organize it. But one thing I can tell you is that this is exactly the kind of problem that earlier I would have said, I need your ideas on this. And she would have given me some. And so I miss that too.
You're in the room. If you'd like to say anything, wave your arm or something so that I can see you.
Okay.
Can we go next?
Yes.
All right. So I'm Scott Hoffman. It's my wife, Mary Kay, and we were with Doug and Sasha in Hong Kong. And I think I just want to point out one little piece that I loved is Sasha's laugh. It is fabulous. I can still hear it. And I actually don't know if Doug started out funny or just Sasha laughed at him so much that he just became funny so we could hear that sound more. But I loved it. And then just another thing about, you know, the overseas life, a lot of people think it's about the places you get to go. And it's really about the people you get to spend your days with. And we had a cool habit. It was there was a restaurant in Stanley that we would go to on Thursdays, and it was an open invitation. And you would go there on Thursdays, and then they would always tell you that the Thai chief was not available, and what they meant was the Thai chef. But we would show up there pretty much every Thursday, and just that everyday connection with people. And I think Sasha was always in for it. She never was like, oh, you know, I'm busy right now. I just need some time by myself. She was just always in for it. And even when we moved to Eugene, you know, the last time I think she came out and visited, she wasn't in good health, but she was in for it. And she sat at our table and connected with our kids and laughed at our stories again. And so I just really appreciate, you know, that being able to keep company with her and miss that as well.
And I'll just add a quick side note, you know, kind of adding to the keeping the faith And she just kept moving, even though, as Scott said, her health wasn't good. But I also want to add that we are in Portland right now, about to go to Trevor Jackson's graduation from Lewis and Clark College. And so it is truly like for us to be sitting here thinking about our Hong Kong life and the lives that people have impacted us and the names we've shared with our children who they haven't met everybody, but they feel like they know everybody. Sasha's, the Bakers are a core of that. And Seth and Sasha and Doug's visit, right when things started getting pretty weird across the world was really a really amazing memory for our family. So
Thank you.
I'm Scott Hawkins. I was a high school classmate of Sasha's, and I have what I think is kind of a comical story to tell. Doug and I go way back. We knew each other as kids. In high school, I was a clerk and a soda jerk for Homer Waltz drugstore. Doug worked right next door at Shepherd's Menswear. So we had a lot of good times back then. And then every year when they would come home from Hong Kong, we would get together a number of times. We would go out to eat, we'd have cookouts, we've had a lot of good times. But my story is that very shortly after high school, Sasha and I dated briefly. And I do mean briefly. It might have been 3 dates, it might have been 2. But Sasha looked at me and she said, "Scott, you are just exactly what I should not be looking for." And I had told Doug that years ago, and sometime here in the last year or so, I said that again, and he said, "I thought that was a joke." And I said, "No, that was a quote." Thank you.
Okay. My name is Tom Wilmore. I'm a first cousin of Sasha. I say Sasha, not Sasha. I've known Sasha since she was about 2 weeks old, so she's been Sasha to me. Her older brother Steve and I are 6 months apart, and we tried to avoid Sasha as much as we could, and we're pretty successful at it. Until my wife and I went to Hong Kong, and that was in '99, something like that, and got to know her a little better, and she was all right. Not the kid I remember. There was a corn crib back in the farm. It was shaped like an L, and Steve and I would get it, he'd get in one side, and I'd get in the other with our BB guns, and start shooting at each other. And Sasha could never understand why we did that. I think she had more common sense than the two of us put together. But she was a good kid.
My name is Julie Hamlin, and I'm one of the other cousins who knew. Hi, Tom. Good to see you, Sharon. I also knew Sasha when she was Sasha, and I was somewhat of a partner in crime with her when we were kids, 2 years apart in age, hanging around on the farm and getting into trouble, and it was all her fault. It was all her idea. The ideas actually did come from her, most of the ideas, and shortly after Sasha died, I tried to remember some of the experiences that we've had, and I put them all into this messy document and sent them off to Doug. So I'm glad that I took the time to do that, because Sasha and I had we had an unusual relationship. I thought I was leading her around. She thought she was leading me around. I think we were close like sisters. I had two sisters, one of whom is right here, Maribel Allert. But Sasha and I were closer to each other in age. And we knew each other during a period when we got to go through the experience of finding out what sex was. I think she first heard it from one of her girlfriends and told me, and I didn't believe it. So we needed to verify. And our way of doing that was we would, after dinner at Grandma's house, when we were staying with Grandma, we would go out to the hog house, which had a slanted roof that was easy to get onto, and we would lie on the slanted roof and not make a move or a sound and watch the hogs do their thing. And we had many, many conversations after that about whether it was anything like humans, and so we went through a period of discovery together. I will never forget Sasha. She imprinted me, as they would say in today's parlance, and I will always miss her, and I understand why others in her life, in her adult life, which I never knew about, would greatly miss her too. Thank you.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Ranjan Goswami, and I can't call her Sasha. I always called her Mrs. Baker because she and Mr. Baker were teachers at the Hong Kong International School. And I had an amazing, unique experience with both of them, which was going on a week-long school trip to the Himalayas. And you got to know that these high school trips were very unique experiences, but the Bakers and getting on a trip with them was a pretty sought after thing. So when I was selected for this particular trip, it was very special. But the story I want to share, and I think kind of encapsulates what makes Mrs. Baker so incredible and memorable, is we did this hike and it was snowing, or there was a fresh snow, and we kind of got lost, and by the time we came back to our camp, and this was at 15,000 feet elevation, we were pretty cold and, wet feet, wet everything. And being spoiled kids from Hong Kong, a lot of us were complaining. And Mrs. Baker would have none of it. And she told us, one, here's some hot towels and here's some way to get warm. And by the way, you're in the middle of the Himalayas. Have some gratitude for that, right? And what was so awesome was it sort of reoriented everybody to realize the experience we were having together and how unique that experience was. So I loved her no nonsense for complaining or for pity, and for being a great example of really having gratitude in life and in the experiences that we were all enjoying. So I will fondly remember her for that and many other things, but wanted to share that story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan, and our family were the Bakers, next door neighbors in Hong Kong. And the thing about growing up overseas is friends are more than family, and the Bakers were that for our family, for sure. For me, I also can only say Mrs. Baker. For me, my image of Mrs. Baker forever is a little tiny bun walking up the dragon's back in her little tiny body. And when I am huffing and puffing, because our family was not as adventurous as the Bakers, they pushed our limits in the best way possible. That her steady movement was our guide. We got to experience and eat and adventure in a way that our family didn't know how to, because the Bakers were there to show us what to do. And Sasha was at the heart of that. And I'm always grateful for that.
Thank you. Doug. Doug Dwiggins, go ahead.
All right, I'm on.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. I am Doug Wiggins, my wife Carolyn, and I've known Doug Baker for a long time. Sometimes I think we might have met in fifth grade at White River Elementary, but I'm not sure because he went to his school, Baker Elementary. But I'm sure we met in junior high, White River Junior. Yeah. Friends, pretty much, ever since. I regret that we were not able to be there in person. As soon as Doug sent the email on February the 9th, I saw it. First thing I did was call the hotel there in Winchester and made a reservation. I had every intention of being there. A couple of years ago, he asked me if I thought he asked me if I knew the chords to a couple of hymns, one of which he sang. So I went online and got him and sent it. I thought that he wanted us to play and sing together, which probably would have been really terrible, but that wasn't it. But this is about Sasha. And I probably met Sasha at around that age too, because my parents were friends with fiddlers. And I remember going out there to the farm to get sweet corn. And this is something that amazed me, and to this day. Annie and my mother and some of those kids went out there to a patch and picked some sweet corn. Annie had a bucket of cold water, plunged those ears right into the cold water. I don't remember Sasha at all. I don't think I was too interested in her at that time. But when I do remember meeting her, was what was mentioned as a tumbling cheerleader. And I thought she was amazing because, like was said, there wasn't a lot of gymnastics at that time. As far as I know, Sasha was the only one in her class to do gymnastics. We had one in ours. That's all I knew of that. Didn't have a lot more interaction over the years. We were both overseas in different places, then in Hong Kong. And then I lived also in the States in different places. But whenever we could get together in the summer, we'd visit out at the farm. Thing I remember about Sasha is it was mentioned how quiet she was. But I don't remember her that way at all. Once she started talking, then it was time for me to practice patience, because she could talk at least three. She had a lot to say. So I'll always remember those visits. The other thing I remember, and I want to thank Ron and Tam Ferguson for doing this. The other thing that I always enjoyed coming to Winchester to visit Doug and Sasha was coming to the friends meet. I regret too that I couldn't come on this trip because of circumstances. But we planned on being there with you in church. So I'm thankful to God for Zoom. There's a lot of things about social media that I'm not thankful about. One of those times when I have to say, thank God for Zoom, so that we could at least this man. And the other reason I wanted to be there was because it's Seth Page. Now, I met Seth in 1974 in Daytona Beach. And I have this picture in my mind to this day. I was shooting slides back then, and I still have it somewhere. I took a picture looking down at Seth and him looking up at me. And that picture is seared in my mind. And I regret that I never got to meet Paige. And that's another reason why I wanted to come see Seth and see Paige. But I really regret not having that opportunity. I share with you in the loss of Sasha. I know how much they love each other. So sorry that she had to go. Me, she went her other way. We would like to think God had me done. So, thank you for letting me speak, and God bless them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Teresa, and I'm representing both Hillary King and myself. I'm actually aiming in from Portugal. Hillary now lives in London, but we were both in Hong Kong when we met Doug and Sasha. And I will keep this very short, only just to say, what a great and solid rock she appeared to me in terms of the relationship she had with her dear husband and my friend Doug. What a great mother she was. How often I saw, what a great athlete she was. How often I saw her running along Repulse Bay. So I just want to say that my memories of the two of them at Christmas parties at my place and the support she gave to Doug in productions that Hillary and I, in a theater context, produced and were involved in, how grateful we were for that support. And so I just want to send my love to her family and be quiet and thoughtful now about the loss of her presence for Doug and his family, but also the shining gift that she gave us all when she was with us. So with that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to read several comments from Anna Mockstad, now of Minnesota. She says, when I think of my friendship with Doug and Sasha over the past 25 years, I remember how easily and quickly they became close friends of ours when they moved to Hong Kong. We fell in love not only with Doug and Sasha, but also their children, Seth and Paige. Those were the best of times. When I refer When I reflect on them, I think of Sasha and all that she brought to enrich my life and the lives of those around her. She impressed me by living her life embodying the Quaker principles, practices of simplicity, peace, integrity, community, and equality. Her love for family and friends was evident in the way that she would welcome you and cherish your friendship. As my daughter said, Sasha was warm and she was fun. She gave deeply to the Hong Kong International School community by loving the children she engaged with, by modeling strength and patience and kindness. The way she loved me, my husband Tom, and our daughter Drew were endearing. She did so with open arms and tenderness. It was the little things, remembering our daughter at Christmas after we moved back to the States by sending her a little something special from Hong Kong all the way to Minnesota. Sasha never complained, never spoke unkindly, greeted you with love and joy, gave selflessly, lived with gratitude and compassion. On this day of remembering her life, I am grateful for her presence in my life. The poem.
It's me again. I'll keep this short. Sort of just to tie together some of the common themes we've heard from everyone who shared. There's a song, actually. It's The Higher You Climb by Dan Fogelberg. This is the actual printout that sits in her bedroom in Winchester that she used to carry with her on some of her adventures. She printed it out because it spoke to her, so I'm just going to read some of the lyrics from this song. The higher you climb, the more that you see. The more that you see, the less that you know. The less that you know, the more that you yearn. And the more that you yearn, the higher you climb. The farther you reach, the more you touch. The more you touch, the fuller you feel. The fuller you feel, the less you need. And the less you need, the farther you reach. The higher you climb, the more that you see. The more that you see, the less that you know. The less that you know, the more that you yearn. And that's what she taught us, to climb higher.
We have been at this for about 80 minutes now. I hate to steal anyone's opportunity to say something. If there's something that you just really feel should be said, we'll give you that opportunity just for a moment.
Do you folks there have any idea how special this event is? This has been here it is 3:00 in the morning in Hanoi, Vietnam. And all of you have filled our hearts in a way that cannot be even understood. Bless you, and all of you for what you've said. We double down on all the comments about Sasha. Blessings to all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here in the room or online? It's hard to watch so many moving parts all at once. We're going to call it good for now. I know that Doug and his kids would love to hear from you if you have not spoken vocally today. I'm sure that they would be glad to hear your thoughts. So please think about sending those to them or give them a call sometime. Just in closing, a couple of things. I said before, as we looked at Lamentations chapter 3 and talked about Jeremiah going through the worst thing that he'd ever gone through, and still finding that God was present and helping him, even in the depths of his sorrow over what he had witnessed and the hardship that he continued to face after Jerusalem fell. That's one of the really important lessons of that particular chapter of Lamentations. That God is present with us through all of those things, and he can help turn those difficult losses around. He can give us a heightened awareness that he is faithful and will help us. A second thing that comes to mind as I think about Sasha and how much we have missed her. Jesus said in his Sermon on the Mount, right at the beginning in the Beatitudes, "Blessed are those who mourn." That seems so counterintuitive, and yet it's absolutely true. What he was saying was that the only people who ever get to feel comfort at the depths of their soul are those who have mourned that deeply as well. Redemptive mourning means that we acknowledge the gift that our loss was to us before it was lost. The gift that this person has been to all of us. The ways that our lives have been blessed and helped by Sasha Baker. To mourn does not mean to weep and wail and pull out her hair. It means to remember at the deepest level possible all of the blessings that we derived from our friendship and relationship with Sasha. And when we can mourn those things, acknowledging those things as gifts, rather than feeling like we've been ripped off somehow, God's comfort comes. He pours it into our lives, and it overflows. And that leads me to the third thing that I just would remind you of as we close this session. In 2 Corinthians, the first chapter, verses 3 through 5, the Apostle Paul says he'd been through a whole lot of hard stuff too. He was in prison for a huge part of his adult life. He was badly treated. He knew what suffering and sorrow was all about. And in that first chapter of 2 Corinthians, he told the church at Corinth that God takes the suffering, the sorrow that overflows out of us, and gives us comfort that will overflow like that in a way that can be helpful to someone else who is going through what you have gone through. He uses our suffering, he uses our sorrow, our willingness to go through those things with God's presence. He uses that in us in order to be able to help others who may not understand that God is present and can help them too. We have seen that happen with Doug already. He does that. He reaches out to other people. He shares the comfort that God has given him with others. We're going to trust God to continue doing that in Doug and through Doug going forward. And we trust that same thing for the rest of you who knew Sasha and cared so deeply for her. I'm going to ask if we could just have a word of prayer, and then there are refreshments downstairs, and I think Doug's not going to run away, so you all can talk with Doug and Sasha, Doug and Paige and Seth downstairs. The easiest way to get there is down that hallway, and there is a lift in the hallway there, or the stairs are just down that hallway as well. So, if you wouldn't mind, let's just offer a word of prayer and we'll close. We thank you once again, Lord, for all who have gathered today to pay tribute to Sasha Baker's life, to give thanks to you for the blessings that they have derived because Sasha was their friend. We ask that you would receive all that has been said during this time together, all that has been thought and remembered, that you would receive that as our prayer of thanks to you for Sasha's life and her friendship, her ministry to us, for all of those lives that she touched and helped. We give you thanks. Watch over these friends as they travel home. Be with them to keep them safe. Keep them mindful of your goodness and your faithfulness as they go from this place. We give you thanks for your care for Doug and his family, and ask that we continue to give them comfort that overflows into the lives of many people. We ask that in Christ's name. Amen. Thank you all very much. It was a joy and pleasure to have you in the house today. Thank you for all who have come online as well. You're in the house too. We all can see you. Thank you for being with us. If some of you online would like to visit with each other, we'll leave this thing open. I bet you see people you haven't gotten to talk to for a long time. We'll leave this open and you're welcome to use this for that purpose. For those of you here in the room, you are at liberty. Please join Doug and his family downstairs. Thank you for coming.